Hey, y'all. You're listening to the Ruckus and the Menace podcast. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Ruckus and the Menace podcast. I'm Spence the Menace.
And I'm Ruckus, and uh,
Wow, that reaction was so delayed, Ruckus. Are you gonna end up having to fix that hiccup in post?
we're just gonna keep it in.
Oh god, that was just my god. It's like you that just what are you sitting on at that point?
I was just like, oh shit, should I just go or?
I stopped for a reason. You caught him looking strike three. Oh my.
Anyways, what are you up to, Spennis?
Oh, I have not been up to a ton. It's been a combination of going through really the major phases of preparing for the house. We're set to kind of really have that rolling here in about a couple weeks, which is why tentatively at this point, unless we really feel like it, because I think my schedule may be available for that. Not expected to have an episode on the 24th, but if we need to, Ruckus, we can. So
Just let
that
me know, and we can figure that out. It's not a big deal. We
yeah, I
can
would
take
say
a week
not
off if we need
expect.
to.
Yeah, I would say not expected, but if I would say more so for that week, if we have stuff that is incredibly significant in sports happen at that particular moment that would require something, we then can cover it. But
Yeah, for sure.
other than that, if this week's definitely a quieter week when it comes to everything. I mean, I think next week if it's quiet, we may go through it, because I looked at it, so is it just me or is there nothing really going on?
Yeah, it's one of those awkward periods where you have like a sport like not active like hockey or basketball, and you just have baseball or football, but like football is just kind of in that stage where it's like there's a lot of stuff being talked about but not a lot being done as far as like games and stuff. Like, yes, there was the Jaguars and Raiders game last Thursday, but other
Yeah,
than that, nothing special.
and then in baseball, yeah, we had all that post deadline stuff, but now you're in a little bit of a maybe not so much a cooling period, but kind of a thing where it's like, yeah, it's still hot, it's still a major thing going on, but you're still about a few weeks away from having major wild card race scenarios kind of coming in. We'll have a lot of that more so right around late September or
Yeah.
mid to late September, where baseball kind of really gets a heat up, and we may end up with some longer episodes because yeah, we'll break down some football, but then we'll also have baseball races to go through.
Yeah, and it's also been like about a week and a half now. It seems it's probably just been about a week, but the players, as far as where they moved and stuff, like not every player is gonna make a huge impact on
Especially in the early going.
right. And like Juan Soto, yes, he's been talked about a lot because he was like one of the bigger blockbuster trades that happened, but also there was a lot of buzz around him anyways, being this young phenom, but you could have had the same thing happen with Otani, but they've been talking about him for like the longest damn time. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah. Do you want me to start off with
Yeah,
what I've been doing?
go ahead
Okay,
and
okay.
kick up with what you've been up to, because you've probably been up to a little bit more as far as certain things you've been binging and such than I have.
Yeah, I have this thing of either watching a show and then trying to finish it and then giving up, or I'd just like full like all gas no brakes on one show and I'm just like full send, just being like, hey, this show's pretty damn good. I should probably watch it all the way through, and then I do. And then there's some shows where you're just like, okay, do I really want to put in the effort to like sit through this, or do I just have it in the background while I'm playing a video game or something? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, that show that I've been and finally finished was Ash vs. the Evil Dead. If you want to watch it, it's on Netflix, but I would recommend that you watch some movies because the Evil Dead 2, and um at I think it's called.
You're looking at the Evil Dead franchise, aren't you?
Yep, guilty is charged. Uh, the third one, I believe, Army of Darkness. That's what it's called. Yeah, see, I'm not a true Evil Dead fan. I had to look that up. I would have known it the by memory.
And they
Um,
even released a video game on Evil Dead this year.
yeah, I looked at the gameplay for that and I was just kind of like, it is what it is. But yeah, I finished the TV show. It's actually not bad. It continues on with what the movies did, and there's a lot of references that are easier to understand if you've seen all three films. They're pretty good. Yes, they're corny and very gory, but for what it's worth, they're pretty good cult classics and just amazing.
I think I've also
Um,
seen that it's like Evil Dead's also very, very campy too. So
yeah, they go to a creepy cabin. Yeah, that's pretty campy. That's kind of like Friday the 13th with
yeah.
Jason. Um, but now I picked up a new show. I'm currently watching Eastbound and Down. It's the Danny McBride show where he's Kenny Rogers, a former major league
You
pitcher,
mean Kenny Powers?
or Kenny Powers. My bad.
Kenny Rogers was either the country singer that would tell you that you got to know when to hold him and know when to fold him, or the pitcher that also had the same nickname as the Gambler. Kenny Rogers was an
Yeah,
actual player.
yeah. Ignore the Kenny Rogers part. Just pretend like I didn't say anything like that. I'm watching Eastbound and Down with Kenny Powers, former baseball player. It's a comedy. It's not something that you would watch with the kids in the same room as you, but it's one of those ones where you watch it with headphones, or you just watch it when you're alone, or with someone that doesn't care all that much about that
trying,
kind of stuff.
trying to think. Is that one HBO Max or is
Yep,
that one?
I have it. I watch it through YouTube TV, through the HBO Max like section of
Yeah,
YouTube TV, and I just watch it through that. It's not
yeah. I was just
bad.
making sure. I was just making sure because I'm like, wait, I could probably pull that up and start it.
Yeah, and by the way, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, the show is on Netflix, and that's where I watched that. As far as what I've been doing, as far as playing them video games, I've been playing a mix of Battlefield 2042. I really only play that during the weekends, and or if like they have a new update. So far, they haven't had anything or much new with the game. But I also played some MLB The Show and got through most of the program of what I wanted for the All Star Game program.
And you realize if you didn't get to it, MTOs are going to be your way to actually get old packs. So
I just waited for the double XP and just grinded all the way through that and played mini seasons to my heart's content, and then also did other like challenges for the monthly awards, which I still haven't gotten Austin Riley, but I heard his card is pretty broken as far as the power.
I am working on clearing the deck. I've got Riley now. I just got the first extra 95 that you get at the tail end of it. And so I am wrapping up that program, or at least wrapping up the completion of that program. I'm going to have to do that now more in play versus CPU if
That's
I
what I
feel
would
like
do
doing
too
that.
when it comes to pitching. Like I'll do that because I don't want to deal with like mini seasons. And like yeah, you could do the same thing with Conquest, but it's probably better for experience progress to just play versus CPU and just like throw your pitcher's arm out until he starts like giving up runs.
Well, there's that, but I'm also looking at doing March to October so I can actually go back and get some of those old programs as well. I mean, All Stars of the franchise I didn't get completely finished. I was up to getting near to the point of the balling out of control packs with
I didn't really know notice the difference between those two, the ball knows a habit and the ball out of control. Is it just a bigger chance of getting a diamond, pretty much?
uh bigger chance of getting higher diamonds, I believe.
Yeah, because
Uh,
that's what I assumed, but I wasn't sure whenever I opened up my first pack of that.
yeah, but I'm definitely like I was getting very very close to balling out of control territory, and I am thinking of doing an Orioles MTO now,
Sounds like fun.
and so hopefully I can turn this into a 3 year. Hopefully I can turn this into like a 2 or 3 year thing, and I start season one tomorrow. Probably start season one tomorrow, and kind of possibly work through at least at minimum, hopefully to the All Star break, and of course you earn the free experience, and then as you hit gateways is when the program stuff kind of starts coming along.
Yeah, I haven't really touched March to October, which I should because I started one a long time ago, but just haven't done anything with it because I've just been so focused on mini seasons and just getting all the XP I need for the program and like the moments. And I kind of quit grinding through those like program moments for just the program in general because I mean it gives you a little bit more XP, but at the end of the day, they give you like so many to where it's kind of exhausting after a while. I usually do the
Oh,
hitting ones first and then the pitching ones.
oh yeah, yeah, and they can be very very time consuming, especially if you don't get it right.
Yeah. Other
Um,
than that, I am getting ready for the weekend as this is not like any other weekend. This weekend, I will be turning 25. I mean,
yeah.
really, my birthday's tomorrow, whenever this recording comes out. But um, this weekend, I'm going to be going to a baseball game. I'm going to the Dodgers and Royals. It's going to be interesting because I've never seen
Mhm.
the Dodgers live, and I'm excited for that. And in general, it's always awesome to do celebrate your birthday in some shape or form.
And also, I believe you, if you're paying for your own car insurance, this is your first car insurance drop. So,
Nah.
and you're, yep, you technically would have your first major car insurance drop at that point, and you are now able to like whenever you go, if you ever needed to, like you're actually able to rent a car and drive it now. So
I
it's
thought
like
that was 20.
25.
I thought it was 27 to rent a car, or like the interest rate was like lower on
Um,
insurance.
yeah, I think it's 25. Well, 25 is where your first major drop is for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all at 25. So,
Sweet. So I could actually rent a car without raising eyebrows. I mean, there'll still be eyebrows raised because Ruckus and all that.
eh,
Cosmic Ruckus.
you never know. I mean, it at least gives you the ability to like say, "Oh, you're traveling somewhere and you need to rent a car." You can freely rent a car. You can freely rent a car at the airport.
Yeah. Luckily, I haven't had to do that, but maybe in the future that'd be nice.
Yeah, at least you now can.
Hell yeah.
But
Well,
let's get
not till noon tomorrow, but yeah.
Oh no! Oh no! It would actually be on the day of. So really, you actually really would only have about an hour and 14 minutes until you actually really could. but that's beside.
Damn
But that's neither here or there. That's beside the point.
it.
But but let's get right into what we were set out to do and head into the weekly lineup. So what we have going on is that we have two major trade requests that have been asked for, one in Cleveland and one in Chicago. The Cleveland one involves Kareem Hunt, and the Chicago one involves Roquan Smith. Will any of these players be traded? And if so, where is probably going to be the best fit for them to go?
Can we start with Kareem Hunt first?
Well, you I kind of left it on an open forum.
Because here's the thing, Hunt didn't really do a whole lot with the Browns. Yes, he played in the playoffs against the Chiefs and like did some things, but let's see here. When he was with the Chiefs, he managed to do some. He managed to punt someone with his foot, and then lied about it to the Hunt family and everybody, and then got kicked off the Chiefs, and then went to the Browns later the next off season, and has been kind of I guess you could say not the best, but he kind of delivered. But I don't know. It's kind of a weird. That one, I feel he is probably just gonna get cut, and then some other team will probably grab him up. But yeah, I don't really see him getting anywhere fast with that.
I think Cleveland will get assets for it. They'll probably buy him at worst if they need to. They'll buy him out. And
Or you could call up Deshaun Watson, your boy, and get a masseuse. That always works. It worked for Deshaun. Sorry, bad joke. Too
no,
soon.
I just think you would probably end up going to a place where not only do they need a running back, but they need a kicker.
Yes. Yeah. Or actually, no, a punter. A punter would be the best option for him.
Well, it still would say at least a kicker.
Well, can you at least get Sally on the phone too, so that she could like take it away from him whenever he tries to kick, and then he just looks like a jackass,
You mean
just laying on the ground.
no? That wasn't even Sally.
Or
That was
God,
Lucy.
God damn it! See this? I haven't seen. To be fair, I have not seen Peanuts in a while, and also I don't
That was
memorize their
Lucy.
names. But also,
Sally.
I'm dumb, so
Sally was Charlie Brown's sister.
well,
You
either
at
way,
least
she let it happen. Okay, she didn't say stop, Lucy. Like you're being a brat. Like just stop right now.
because Sally in those clips was generally never even there.
Yeah, she should have been there for her brother, a little turd. Anyways, back to the news.
Oh, but I definitely could see. I think Kareem Hunt will likely get bought out. But I think Roquan Smith, you might be able to get assets if a deal turns out, but I don't think a deal will get done until probably closer to the trade deadline for Roquan Smith.
Yeah,
He
especially
might
like
be a
this early in.
deadline deal, especially because you kind of need certain things to formulate.
Also, it seems like in this like kind of environment right now with trading, it's kind of far fetched because of the fact that unless you're like a big name that really wants out or is like poking the stick on the franchise that they're currently playing for to get traded, there's not going to be a whole lot. Like Baker
Oh,
Mayfield, for example, would is a good one because he was like wanting a trade a while ago, but then finally got one.
Roquan Smith has the potential to be that because he's a player that for the Bears ultimately really moves the needle. And his issues with the Bears are pretty well expressed. And that the Bears really don't value him and it's kind of that competency issue with them. So Roquan Smith may have a point. He may have a point, but it's hard to tell whether or not he'll ultimately have his trade request granted. And you gotta find the right team to also have him fit too. I mean, we already talked about post deadline things for the trade deadline. Um but but kind of some kind of some big things there. Is there anything in baseball that has stuck out for you since the trade deadline? Like, say, maybe a team has benefited heavily, or
Mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of activity from many teams, and even like before like the deadline actually happened, like that day when it happened, like Benintendi going to the Yankees, I haven't really seen much of a benefit from him being there. He kind of went off on to the deep end as far as production with hitting and just what he was doing with the Royals. As far as other players, not just my biased favorite team, I haven't seen a whole lot. I mean, the Mets have really benefited with Vogelbach and Darren Ruff and a few other guys that they acquired through the deadline.
I think there's some early net that could benefit with Eric Hosmer. Um, I think the big splashes have kind of put themselves in an interesting spot with certain places. The Nationals now have kind of reset themselves as the team with the worst record in all of baseball. The Reds might be a step ahead with their rebuild. The Cardinals have taken over the lead in the NL Central, and now Milwaukee could be on the outside looking in, but that's a nice tight battle. Um,
I feel like there's a reason why Josh Hader got traded, though. A lot of people were like, you probably don't want to like do that if you're trying to contend for the postseason. But in the Brewers' eyes, they probably don't have as much talent as say the Cardinals do, because Cardinals got Arenado, Goldschmidt, and Wong and Tommy Edman and a couple of guys, and they ended up
both
giving up. What?
both central races right now are very, very nip and tuck.
Yeah, the
That
AL Central is kind of mediocre, whereas the NL Central, I don't really pay attention too much with the National League. Uh,
considering the other three teams in the division, other than the Pirates or other than the Brewers and the Cardinals, are like kind of like way down there. I'm The Brewers and the Cardinals are going to be battling for that division pretty much day in day out.
yeah,
But I think a fun, intriguing thing that is coming about right now with the AL wild card. You have right now three teams all within a half game of each other, and the White Sox are creeping in at 2 games out. And
uh,
really, you have a grand total of 7 teams within 6.5 games.
I'm just gonna say this right now, unpopular opinion, and yes, I'm a Royals fan, so it's a division rival, but they ain't it, Chief, and not even the Twins, because um, one, the White Sox, when it comes to some of the boneheads that they did, it's probably going to be about the same as it was in 2020 whenever they got into the play-in stuff where they had more teams, or it wasn't even really a play-in like the NBA playoffs, but it was like a 3-game thing, kind of like the ALDS, but it was like a wild card thing where you had more teams added in.
Yeah, like they're doing this year.
Right. So like I don't know. I don't. Depending on who they play, even then, like their firepower needs to step up. Like when they played Oakland like a couple years ago, their main stipend, or not really their stipend, but like their main chokehold that they went against was straight up just Liam Hendricks and their clear lack of playoff experience. Yes, they're a younger team, but they still have veterans. But like Jose Abreu was probably the one of the younger guys that got a little bit of playoff experience from that. But like, there's not a whole lot of experienced guys that could like get them through that and or like pop when the time is right. Like the other case of that is kind of like the Royals. Like in 2014, they had a lot of young guys, but a lot of veteran guys too. And the young guys like showed up in the best moment. Whereas like in 2014, Mike Trout, which was like known as like the freaking Michael Jordan of MLB, like Major League Baseball. And he ended up not showing up, and neither did any of the other veterans on there. It just depends on the right place at the right time. It seems like.
I'm gonna say as far as the AL, maybe not unpopular opinion, maybe somewhat unpopular opinion. The Baltimore Orioles.
I wouldn't even call
I
that an unpopular opinion. I would just say that's pretty. That's pretty like reasonable.
say that I think that the Baltimore Orioles might mess around and manage to make themselves and stake a claim to at least either competing in a tiebreaker or flat out making the wild card.
Dude, that's what Speed do over there in Baltimore. I don't know what you did, but I don't know if Rod Dyson's like your base running coach or something, but man, they got some speed over there. You got Jorge Mateo, you got Cedric Mullins, you got
Austin Hayes has speed.
damn straight, and then you have Ramon Urias, which seems more like a pop guy that can just hit the ball, and you still got some other hidden talents in there that I haven't mentioned, and
Yeah.
also Brett Phillips, but I see him more as like a comes in later in the game kind of guy, not really like a starter. But yeah, like Baltimore is like the scary favorite. They're kind of like what the I don't really want to compare them to the 2014 Kansas City Royals, but like they're like a sneaky favorite. That's what I'm gonna say.
They are a team that is playing or setting themselves up to be currently right now. They are currently about a year, maybe even two, ahead of schedule.
He's gotta keep stepping it up every day. You don't just do it like once and then just keep it on the afterburners or hope that you'll just get lucky one day. You gotta bust it, and that
And
shows
they
for
are
like the
playing
better
with
teams
an
too.
incredibly low payroll too.
Yeah, and you could say the same thing for the Rays as well.
But I think that the Orioles right now are more on a lower payroll because of these two words: youth movement.
Also, the Rays have kind of died off too. I feel like it feels that way because of like the amount of press that they get compared to like the last couple of years. It hasn't been as much as it was back then, where they're like, "Oh, we got this plug and play system, and our payroll is this and whatever," and we're facing like a tough division. It's just like okay, but like now it seems kind of mediocre because like either there's guys that are out for the rest of the year that you had to try and find new talent for, or you just have guys that aren't really showing up or
I
don't
think
seem
that
like they were.
they're dealing with injuries right now. I think that there is an injury bug going on in Tampa Bay. I think once they get some of those players back, they may be able to make a little bit of noise again. But Minnesota's right there, kind of in that range of setting up to try and play spoiler to that wild card rate or even the division race.
I'd really like to see Seattle also get into like Toronto. Yes, that'd be nice to see them go far, but man, the last time the Orioles were like even close to postseason was 2017 or
Yeah,
2016.
it was like the mid 2010s.
I think it was 2016 was the last time they like made it into like a wild card spot, and that was against the Blue Jays.
And Buck
Where
Showalter was the manager.
and the sad thing about that was you put Ubaldo Jimenez as the guy to pitch late in that game, and he of course gets walked off with Edwin Encarnacion. I was pissed, and I was watching that game live. I was in my dorm room at college watching that game and was really pissed off by that move. I was like, what kind of bonehead decision was that?
Seattle Seattle right now is currently 1.5 up on the wild card race
Right.
from Baltimore, Tampa. They currently hold the second spot. So if they can hang on to that second spot, they may very well make it.
Yeah, who
And
is their. Let's see. I'm going to look at their regular season standings really quick.
61 and 52. They've
Take out the
won their
asterisks, man.
well, the hard part is that they're 10 games, 11 games behind them. So I think the Astros may eventually soon will have that well in hand. But
They're just barely banging on those trash cans.
have we ever made the statement that sometimes a joke gets taken about 5 times further than where it needs to go? And just the the asterisks and the trash can jokes right now are just kind of dead.
Yeah, but I still have a salty taste in my mouth from that stuff, but it is what it is. I'm not going to go any further.
Yeah. But another notable thing that has kind of come shockingly viral this week is that Edwin Diaz has picked up some fame from his entrance and the music that was there, but as he chose Narco by Blaster Jacks and Timmy Trumpet.
Do you want to call it walk-up music, or is it even really that?
It basically he treats it like a true entrance too. Like he actually was walking out kind of as the beat drops and everything. Like his timing with that. And I mean, I could have also mentioned the Jason Hayward and Framil Reyes were waived, but this kind of really took like a little bit more precedent. But is it the best closer music of all time?
Probably, maybe. I haven't really listened to the song, but I feel like the most iconic for me, since I was actually at a postseason game when this happened, Albayarde by Tego Cauldron, was playing whenever Wade Davis was called in to close on Game 6 of the ALCS in the 2015 postseason for the Royals against the Blue Jays. I heard
Yeah.
that song and it was blaring and it was awesome and everybody was into it. That, like, was probably one of the more cooler times. Besides, like, yes, you could say Enter the Sandman with Mariano Rivera is pretty good. Yes, you could say, like you were saying, was it Hell's Bells with Trevor
It's
Hoffman?
it's Hell's Bells with Trevor Hoffman, and it especially was great in San Diego because of how they do the last inning.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. To me, with my personal experience, I liked the Albayarde song. It was called El Albayarde by Tego Cauldron. If you want to listen to it on your own time or during the podcast, that's fine. But it's a good song. It's a Mexican or Spanish rap song. It's pretty decent. I don't understand what they say in like the whole song, but it sounds good and catchy.
Yep. I think what was even interesting was Papelbon, whenever he was in Boston, actually pulled Shipping Up to Boston by the Dropkick Murphys as well. And then Bearded Brian Wilson was also had Jump Around by House of Pain.
I can see that. He was kind of a wild man. But another one that is iconic is Wild Thing, but we'll get to that later. That's a
Yeah,
fictional character too, not a real MLB player.
yeah, we'll get to that late. Yeah, we'll get to that later. But here, but now that we've gotten through what kind of and had a little bit of some reflection of the past, now we can get into even more in recognition of what events go were going on as we head into sport history. All of these events that I will be speaking on in this happened on August 10th. In 1934, Babe Ruth announced that season would be his last as a ball player. In 1971, on this day, Harmon Killebrew hit career home run number 500. 1981, Pete Rose passes Stan Musial's career hits mark. 1986, Billy Martin has his number retired by the Yankees. That number being 1. And then this was the most interesting thing that came up. In 1995, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who were leading 2-1 over the Cardinals, are forced to forfeit a baseball game. This is the last time it occurred ever in MLB history. But you would think, okay, if you're out at a ballpark, what would be something you would get as a souvenir for a promotion?
Probably either a hat, a cheap jersey, a just like depending like probably not a souvenir ball unless it was hit to you in foul play or as a homer.
Yeah. But this was souvenir baseballs. Like, not even the actual baseballs that would be hit. Like, they gave away souvenir baseballs, and they were being yeeted onto the field by unruly fans following a strikeout to Eric Karros.
At least make them foam. That's where my inner Karen comes in, where I'm like, at least make them to where they won't hurt. But like as far as like I don't know, I think it's kind of funny that that happened, but at the same time, that kind of reminds me of like that unruly like challenge or issue that happened during the Texas Blue Jays game in 2015 when they like ruled I think they like ruled someone out at like home or something, or there must have been some like unjust that really pissed off Blue Jays fans and they started throwing their beer bottles on the field and stuff. And I was just like, oh yeah, I wonder what that reminds me of. Obviously, that was like 20 years prior, but still.
Yeah, I got you. But now we have a whole bunch of things that institute policies of you can't do that. But the pandemic also really brought a lot of unruly fans to ball states because it's like, oh, the pandemic's over. We can go to ball games. Now we can be as unruly as we want to. And get ridiculed and taken heavy fire by the internet.
Do what the internet does. It doesn't matter what it is. They'll always they'll always butt heads over dumb things. It is what it is. That's here nor there.
Yep. Yep. So now that we've gotten through sport history, we now can move on to the high heat. And today's high heat is what will be occurring while Ruckus is celebrating his birthday. The Field of Dreams game.
I feel like it's a coincidence, but also I'm very happy that it happens on the same day that my birthday is happening. I'm actually very happy because it's like because like last year's game was super like eventful, and I just remember like how quiet the whole stadium was because literally it's a freaking ball field, for Christ's sake. The only like people that could actually like put their ass on a seat were like either near home plate or like on the third base or first base side. There was no outfield stuff like you would normally get at a normal baseball park, so it was obviously a lot less people. And I don't even remember how much the damn tickets were just in general, but they probably weren't cheap because it's one of those once in a lifetime experiences hoopla. But like the sounds of the game were just super cool because it just you could like actually feel or like hear like the pop of the glove or like the crack of the bat because of how like wide open it is.
Quiet it is, yeah, and
Yeah,
how quiet
it
it is
felt
too.
good. It felt intense. Like it's like almost like going to like a NASCAR event and just hearing the roar of the motors whiz by you.
Yeah. The Field of Dreams game is like one of the most beautiful things you can. And last year when the Yankees and White Sox did it, they had the old timey intros
Dude, that
where they're
intro was dope.
where the players were coming out of the where the players were coming out of the cornfield, Costner throwing the first pitch and
Do you
having
think
Costner.
Costner is going to throw the first pitch again, or are they just going to put some old timey person that was actually part of baseball instead of Kevin Costner? Like, is Kevin Costner doing a
It
movie
could be
or like a
another.
TV
It could
shoot?
not too sure. It could be another star. It could be another star from a movie. It could be,
Oh, they
or
could get a hologram of Ray Liotta because now he's dead. But like, that'd be kind of cool to like honor Ray Liotta because he was in the Field of Dreams movie. But like, I would. It'd be kind of hilarious if like Kevin Costner couldn't do it because he was doing filming for Yellowstone. But yeah,
you never know. He could have opened up his schedule for it. But the probables for tonight's Field of Dreams game, or the next Field of Dreams game tomorrow, between the Reds and the Cubs, is Drew Smiley versus Nick Lodolo, and I think this is going to be a solid game. But the first thing we want to say is how do we like the old timey outfits?
I like them, but I don't like the caps for the Cubs. It feels like one of those like souvenir things you get at a gift shop, and it's just kind of like there, but like not a lot of people are saying I want to buy that. It's just kind of there. But
Oh, the Cubs one doesn't look half that bad.
yeah, I'm just saying like it's one of it feels generic, but at the
Yeah,
same
if
time,
generic. It feels as basic as certain types of people going into a Starbucks.
just random BuzzFeed article that no one asked for.
I think we basically could end up with nearly any BuzzFeed article having it be completely unasked for.
Like the other special on Netflix. Sorry, not sorry.
But I would love to see the Reds in this stuff a little more often because the Reds one looks great. The only thing I don't like with the Reds one is the pinstripe cap because I don't think that looks good, but everything else is fine.
I mean, white on red probably isn't a good match for that.
Oh, what for pinstripes or for the
Yeah, like
cap?
for the outlines of the pinstripes, just in general, is probably not a very good look. Like
Oh, the
compared to like
pinstripes are
black
black.
on white.
The pinstripes are black.
Oh, because I pictured in my mind that it was all just white on red. That's why I
No,
was making that.
no, it looks like the pinstripes are actually black. I just don't like it going from the hat. I think the hat they could have done without it.
Yeah, the hat does look kind of dumb. Like I'm looking at the helmet, which is not the same thing as a hat, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the hat, like the little, yeah, the stripe you're talking about looks stupid.
Yeah, I would say the hat for me goes to the Cubs.
Yeah, most definitely. I would rather have the Cubs hat. Like, even though it's a generic looking hat, I'll still buy it. But the Reds
The
one, get
jersey,
out of town.
I'm going to say this. I think the jersey can go either way because the Cubs with the cream jersey, that looks it does look good.
I like the look of it. It screams old, but it also brings a modern feel to it, I guess. I don't know if that's what they were going for, but I feel like it was more towards like we're trying to make this feel old because that's what the Field of Dreams is kind of about.
Yeah.
It, um, yeah, I could probably go either or. I kind of like the Cubs one better because it looks kind of like a Braves theme. If you think about it, like if you kept the C on the Cubs but took away the Cub, and then like maybe like I guess put like was it a tomahawk that they had like in the middle like that was like kind of like
The A with the tomahawk.
it kind of feels like that same thing, but if you put the C and you like put it across both sides, the left and the right, it would kind of you would probably maybe mistake it as like a Braves jersey from afar, and then realize that it was just a Cubs jersey. But like, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Um, and the last question we have is, who do we have winning it?
That's you got more. You still have Ian Happ and Wilson Contreras, but it could also be like a very close game, kind of like the last year's game with the Yankees losing to the White Sox. Was it in extras or was it just the bomb of the ninth where Tim Anderson hit that walk off?
It might have been. I'm not 100% sure.
Um, I don't know. The Reds. I feel like both teams have some veteran presence, but they're both not really looking at a postseason push. So if I'm gonna be honest here, I think the Cubs maybe edge it out.
I think I'm going to take the Reds.
All
I'm
right,
going
a little
to
friendly
take the Red.
competition.
I like. I like. I think Lodolo. I think Lodolo is going to have a nice big stage to work with, and if he plays well, it definitely comes together.
So what you're telling me is Drew Smiley is gonna have a frowny face at the end of this one.
Mm. Especially if certain right-handed batters play well. And the MLB The Show did has also done their program for Field of Dreams as well. And this major thing is a program that has 9 total players, and you can get 4 of them, Ruckus. And they're themed in 3 different types of categories.
I think one
You
was
have
Boss, right?
this is the bosses. The bosses
Okay.
are in 3 different categories. You have future stars, you have flashbacks, and you have legends. Your future stars are a future stars 99 overall Grayson Rodriguez, 99 overall Riley Green, and a 99 overall O'Neal Cruz. For the legends, you have Ron Santo, Al Kaline, and Brian Roberts. And for the flashbacks, you have Joey Votto, Yadier Molina, and Zach Greinke. The K line is a Gold Glove. The Yadier is a milestone. The Santo is a signature series, along with the Votto as a signature series. And the Brian Roberts and Zach Greinke are both retro finest cards. Brian Roberts retro finest to 2005, and Zach Greinke's to 2009.
Cy Young winner, baby.
Yep. So I kind of skipped a lot more of like the simulate. I kind of did the simulation because we were kind of talking into the Field of Dreams game. So we kind of swapped some segments around. So
That's fine. That's
just
fine.
so you're aware, this program will last now less than 10 days. So Ruckus, you might want to hurry.
Oh, jeez, Rick.
All right. So now we move on to setting the lineup, which is normally a weekly segment where Ruckus and I will have kind of either a start bench cut scenario or a would you rather scenario, and we kind of analyze the decisions. If you have any suggestions for this, mention it to us through our comment section on the YouTube. This week, we are adding a new type to this setting the lineup, and it is called a rankum. The question posed to Ruckus and I are what are our top 5 baseball movies? Are both of ours in an actual order, or are we in no particular order?
We'll have to let the listeners be the judge of that.
Well, okay, so Ruckus, your number 5 is
Little Big League.
yeah, Little Big League, where we will have Little Big League will get mentioned a good bit more with certain things later on. But the concept behind it, take it away, Ruckus.
Concept is kid that is in grade school plays baseball and his grandfather owns the Minnesota Twins. Grandfather
Father
dies
dies.
and he gets ownership of the team and becomes GM for the summer.
Yep. And through the ups and downs, they eventually make it to a 1-game playoff where they lose to the Seattle Mariners.
Way to
And
spoil it, you.
and
Way to
Ken
spoil it,
Griffey Jr.
man.
I mean, you have like over 20 years. You had like over 20 years to see the film. So
And I
you
had over 20 years to see Friday the 13th, but no one spoiled it for me. God. I'm just kidding. Do what you want.
yeah, but that had to have already been kind of known. My number 5 is Trouble with the Curve. This one is your Clint Eastwood baseball film.
Man, I could already see him do the stink guys right now, knowing that you picked him at number 5, the first
Well,
loser.
well,
Or
here's
the
the thing.
fourth
Well, here's the
loser.
thing. If you consider the other 4 movies in front of it, and I actually knocked Little Big League off of my list due to us remembering another baseball film.
Honest to God, I'm
So
not gonna blame you for that.
so but the concept behind it is that Eastwood's a scout, but yet is very aging and should retire. Has his daughter, Amy Adams, help him. All of a sudden, Amy Adams and Eastwood eventually encounter this other guy that was a former player that became a scout in Justin Timberlake's character. But all of a sudden, it's like everybody's talking about numbers and they wanted to draft this one particular player. Eastwood character kind of tells him it's like, no, there's something in how he swings the bat that he can't hit a curveball. So Amy Adams eventually finds this pitcher that can throw to this hotshot prospect, and ultimately the hotshot prospect gets shown up, and Amy Adams eventually takes over some of the scouting for the Atlanta Braves, while Eastwood eventually could retire. So but I really enjoyed the film. Like that one was a surprisingly enjoyable film for what it was worth.
Yeah, that whole movie was just a really good example of of how, I mean, like, yes, there's probably more into prospect hunting than there is just for one guy that they do in like one film, but that was a really good example of like how to analyze what's going on behind
Yep,
the scenes.
yep, and that is why I definitely selected that. So your number 4, Ruckus, is
Another cheesy baseball movie in Rookie of the Year.
a
Both
John Candy film.
both Little Big League and Rookie of the Year are one of my childhood favorites. I used to watch them all the time on demand on cable. They're free, by the way. I did not have to pay for them, and not because my grandparents and or parents had to pay for them. It was just free on demand. Um, Rookie of the Year is pretty much just a kid breaks his arm playing in the outfield as a little league or playing in little league, and then comes back with the cast and turns out that the bones fused more tighter than they should have. So whenever he gets the cast off, he has a superhuman arm and can throw really fast. And then it turns out near whenever the Cubs find out, because this is based in Chicago. I should have said that before, but they go to a Cubs game. He uh, the the opposing team hits a home run, and he's in the bleachers over there, and the fans are saying, "Throw it back, throw it back." He throws it. He throws like a literal rocket to the catcher, and then the guy that had the home run gets called out for some reason, because Hollywood. Um, and then after that, the club for the Chicago Cubs wants this kid, so they do everything in their manpower and Hollywood magic to get this kid to play for them. And then near the end of the movie, he kind of loses his arm, like that arm strength, because of a certain incident, and then ends up playing. And it's one of those sports movie things where it's like, okay, the gold moment happens, and it happens, and then everybody goes hooray, hurrah. But yeah, basic premise: kid breaks his arm, it heals too good, and then he becomes too good, and then yeah, Rookie of the Year. What's your number
Okay.
4, Mr. Spennis?
I am taking the 2002 sports drama film starring Dennis Quaid called The Rookie. This is based on the true story of Jim Morris, who was a former pro baseball player for the who threw for the Tampa Bay Rays back in the late 90s. So what it was that his set to play base had dreams of making it to baseball, but the town that was moved and lost baseball, and then it just was a shift from like, wow, American Times has gone from shifting from the passion for baseball to the passion for football. Was unable to play baseball in high school, was drafted by the Brewers, but he tears up his shoulder, ending his hopes of a dream. But in '99, he becomes a high school teacher, as well as the baseball coach for the team. Turns the team around, and they said and the players believed that he could possibly that Jim Morris could possibly pitch in the major leagues. If the Owls were state champions, Jim would try out again, which it ultimately happens. And basically he makes the Rays and plays works his way up through the minors and makes it to the show. So really this one for me, just simply because of the true story that was involved with Dennis Quaid, and makes my list for that reason. And yeah, but 3 out of my 5 movies were based on true stories.
For number three.
Yep.
All right,
You're
so my number three pick was the movie 42, the Jackie Robinson story, with Chadwick Boseman as the main character. Um, Basic premise: it's the Jackie Robinson story. If you haven't heard it, uh, a African American baseball player goes from the Negro Leagues to the actual majors, and you go through the journey of him trying to play in the same ball field as the white man and trying to blend in with the crowd. But the problem is, it's during a time where black
yeah,
players could not go to certain stadiums or go to certain areas, such as like bathrooms and whatnot, and
40s.
just yeah. So he had to face the troubles of that, and also the troubles of people hazing him and calling him out for because of the pigment of his skin. And that is a story of Jackie Robinson, pretty much. And that is 42.
All right. Well, number 3, I now went into my fictional line for the movies again, and I took The Sandlot for my number 3 film, where basically talks about this 5th grader named Scott Smalls that moves into an LA suburb, and kind of his adjustments to moving in LA, and it ultimately chronicles around these kids in really a coming of age story. And granted that all of the players all the players have their own thing where ultimately they have the PF Flyers and dealing with the Beast, and the Babe Ruth baseball. So there's all sorts of different things that kind of go on, and next thing you know, that Smalls became a sport commentator covering Dodgers games, where now Benny the Jet Rodriguez, I think, ultimately became a major leaguer, and was used as a pinch runner and promptly would steal home, where the two childhood friends would eventually see each other, one in the box and one on the field. So it really kind of told like the coming of age story of them growing up, and then ultimately seeing that friendship happen upon that line. So which one for you was number 2?
My second pick would have to be the movie that has the manager going, "Ricky, give him the heel," or Wild Thing, that makes my heart sing, and that is Major League. My It's one of my favorites because of Bob Euchre doing like the announcing while
It's
also
just a bit outside.
and also with like a bottle of scotch or whatever he had. But also, like, I just love like the whole aspect of it and just the comedy of it. It's so good. And then also Charlie Sheen as Ricky Vaughn, Wild Thing, that makes my heart sing. Pretty good. It's very iconic.
My number 2 is Moneyball. And granted that our number ones will have a lot more intersection two different two different films here. But my number two being Moneyball, which is based on a book of the same title, but the story is told of the 2002 Oakland Athletics and how Billy Bean has just basically put advanced stats into what ultimately became the new, like, some of the new analytics. Well, some of the early sabermetrics, I should say, from John W. Henry and the Boston Red Sox. So really, this movie stars Brad Pitt, and Jonah Hill is partially based on Paul DePodesta, who was kind of that major player, the major person that Bean worked with.
Yeah, they called him Peter Brand in the movie.
Yeah,
Jonah Hill.
because he didn't feel comfortable in the spotlight, because DePodesta did not feel comfortable in the spotlight after the book was released. It earned him as a reputation as a cold calculator, choosing players based on only their numbers.
Yeah.
And so really, that was there. Philip Seymour Hoffman was Art Howe. And this movie also was a little bit of a rising, also brought who eventually a future Hollywood rising star that came in by the name of Chris Pratt.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that was Chris Pratt until I watched it back again. I was like, hold on a second. They made Hattenberg Chris
Scott
Pratt.
Hatterberg was Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt played Scott Hatterberg in that film.
Yeah, when I was a wee lad watching that movie with my grandparents and my parents at the time, I did not know that was Chris Pratt. Because at that time, Chris Pratt wasn't well known, like you said, but like now when I look at that, like he was on Jurassic World, he was on Guardians of the Galaxy. Now that I realize that and that like absorbed into my mind, I was like, oh snap. Chris Pratt was Scott Hattenberg in
Scott Hatterberg,
Moneyball.
yep. 2011. Chris Pratt did that role in 2011. And ultimately, granted that there were some movies also before that, where I think Chris Pratt also was in things like Wanted, Jennifer's Body, but ultimately Moneyball was kind of the first role that started to have him break out a little bit.
He's so cool.
But he did not, but the real breakthrough occurred when he did the Lego movie and Guardians of the Galaxy.
I didn't know he was in the Lego movie. Yes, he was probably a voice actor, obviously, but
Yeah.
like
Oh,
I
yeah, it
didn't
was
know that.
primarily voice. Yeah, but Chris Pratt was the voice of the main character.
Oh, that makes a whole lot more sense now. I can see that. But yeah, like he's so cool though, playing was it Mario for the new movie for the Mario animated?
Yeah, it is an untitled Mario film that is in post production. He is Mario in that.
He's
And he's
so
also
cool.
doing Garfield. He's also doing Garfield in one right now as well.
I could see that. That'd be kind of funny. Like, is he like actually Garfield, or is he like the
No,
owner of the real?
actually Garfield.
Okay,
Yeah.
I could see
But
him hating
ultimately
Mondays and liking lasagna.
but the ultimate but I think the ultimate role that started to have him break out was him as Andy Dwyer in Parks and Rec.
Yeah, and him and Aubrey Plaza kind of having like a semi uh romantic relationship, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But Chris Pratt but yeah, ultimately Chris Pratt is was one of those notable names. So your number one film, Ruckus, is
It is Brad Pitt's Moneyball. I love the film. I probably love it a little bit more than Major League, obviously, because I named it number one. No shit. But as far as Moneyball goes, it's probably one of my favorite films because it's more iconic to me as far as my experience with it, and also just because I love the scene where Billy Bean, Brad Pitt's character, is like trying to get with whatever he's trying to have the old timer prospects see what he is seeing by bringing in Peter Brand's character, which is Jonah Hill, and every time that he wants like an answer from Pete, he like snaps his fingers and points at Pete, and then he says, "Get on base,"
Yeah.
and that is
It
like the funniest thing for me.
was the whole he gets on base. And then there was also this to me was also a film that was outside of was Jonah Hill's like true wheelhouse, but it fit him perfectly that it made it make sense.
Dude, he looked really intelligent in that film because most films, like he was either a stoner comedian or like just a guy that looks like a douchebag. Like in Superbad, he looked like a total like dirtbag.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, he looked really intelligent and looked like he could like be an accountant.
Yep. And then next was my number one, which I took 42, where you had Chadwick Boseman play Jackie Robinson. But I think for me for that film, what was more impressive, or what was also just as great of a role, was actually Harrison Ford. It was Harrison Ford playing the manager or the
Honest to
GM
God,
or
was it
the
also
owner, Branch Rickey.
honest to God was it because of also the meaning of life? 42. I just looked it up because I was like making sure I didn't make a really dumb joke without being like somewhat intelligent about it. But yeah, like
Yeah. But Branch Rickey basically being the executive of the Dodgers, and how he was able to put the put the whole thing together to bring Jackie Robinson in and break pretty much perpetuate breaking the color barrier. But ultimately, really, it just showed like Brand Tricky was already being innovative at this time that they didn't even like he doesn't necessarily get the recognition that it was fully due. I mean, the color barrier was definitely the most famous move, but
yes.
yeah, but he was also responsible for the first full-time spring training facility, encouraged the now commonplace tools such as the batting cage, pitching machines, and batting helmets, pioneered the use of statistical analysis in baseball, and also which is now known as sabermetrics, Moneyball. Thank you. Shout out to Branch Rickey for all of these analytics.
I also
Um,
just liked Harrison Ford in that film too.
promoted pretty much we're promoting the idea of on base percentage. Yeah, that's that. Platoon effects, basically, and Branch Rickey also, Alan Roth also, along with working with Rickey, was also the first person to provide statistical evidence about the platoon. So really a lot of what baseball is today would not have been possible without Branch Rickey. Like the guy was an innovator for baseball. And then and yeah, his most famous innovation was the color barrier, but like I'm looking at this right now and it shocks me what he was able to do, of what Branch Rickey was able to do for the sport of baseball. But we also had a few notable movies that were not mentioned by us. We had Bull Durham.
A League of Their Own.
Well, and to think, there is actually a team in the minor leagues that in Durham, North Carolina, their team mascot is the Bulls. Kind of playing off of that with Bull Durham. Yeah, League of Their Own, 8 Men Out, The Natural, The Bad News Bears, and Mr. 3000 were not mentioned by us as far as our top 5 baseball movies. However, we now will run into more things, as this week's War Room is a collaborative effort with Ruckus and I, as we have named our all fictional baseball team, all fictional character baseball team. Now, the players that we chose, they must be fictional characters, and they're characters that would come from a baseball related movie, TV show, or video game.
And that does not include The Simpsons, which I very
Yes,
hardly.
because
I
unfortunately,
tried super hard to like get them in, and then Spence was like, "Nah, fam, like don't add them in." And I was like,
well,
"Okay, fine."
the problem is that the Simpsons, apparently, with what you were saying, is like they were all actual baseball players.
Right, and I was just like, "Come on, man, Daryl Strawberry, you can't put him in." And he was like, "No, dude, just no." And I'm like, "Okay."
No, because Daryl Strawberry was an actual baseball player.
Right.
All right.
I understood
So,
that. I was just like,
so
"Come on,
we're
man."
so the first things first that we are going to do is we are going to mention our reserves. We're going to mention our reserves for the lineup. And the reserves we had were Stan Ross from Mr. 3000, from Backyard Baseball, Pete Wheeler, from Little Big League, Mickey Scales, from Hey Arnold, Mickey Kaline, and from The Sandlot, Ham Porter. We actually passed up on using Jake Taylor for this.
Because he kind of sucks. We're not gonna lie there.
And here is our starting lineup. At catcher, we have from Bull Durham, Crash Davis. At first base, from Little Big League, we have Lou Collins. I'll let you go ahead and take a couple here, Ruckus.
All right, at second base we have Benny the Jet Rodriguez from The Sandlot. For third base we have Ray Mitchell from Angels in the Outfield. At shortstop we have Pablo Sanchez from Backyard Baseball. At left field we have T-Rex Pennebaker from Mr. 3000. At center field we have Willie Mays Hayes from Major Leagues, Wesley Snipes. At right field we have Tucker Kane from Little Big League. And at DH, we have Pedro Serrano, also known as the Allstate guy, because are you in good hands?
From Major League, yep. And our rotation, we chose 3 pitchers for this, or at least 3 pitchers that we would potentially start, 2 relievers, and a closer. Our starting pitchers, from Rookie of the Year, Henry Rowengartner.
Do you mean Rowenbacher?
Something like that. But it's Rowengartner. From For Love of the Game, Billy Chappell. And from Eastbound and Down, Kenny Powers.
Yeah, not Kenny Rogers.
Our two relievers from Rookie of the Year, we have Chet Stedman, and from Little Big League, Jim Bowers. We could have put Blackout Gatling here, but Bowers to me, I think, was the better character.
Yeah, for sure.
The
Because
Chalk.
Blackout Gatlin kind of sucked. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but he was the one in the when solving the math problem. He's like, why don't they just buy a house that was already painted?
Well, are we talking about the same person that like put their their tobacco chew with their bubble gum?
They must have. Yeah, I think that was what Blackout did.
Yeah, and like he kind of just looked at Blackout and was just like, "Dude, like what the hell?"
But Bowers was the person with the pumped up glove and the
The one was he the one that like didn't want to be there and just wanted to be traded, and then they finally knocked some sense into him.
I don't know. Bowers was the prankster. I think he was the one that dropped the water balloon out of the window and
Oh, that makes more sense.
yeah, he's like the Chalk. And then our closer, none other than Charlie Sheen himself, Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn from Major League.
And in this film, he was actually winning, and not before his real life winnings. But yeah, Wild Thing, you make my heart sing.
All right. So now that we've gotten through our fictional team, we now go to pretty much closing out the show with the weekly stud and dud. Ruckus, take it away.
All right, so my stud was Juan Soto for catching a line drive that Trey Turner hit around him. And this is special because on Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, he was mic'd up, and during this live moment, Trey Turner was at bat, was hitting, and obviously, like I said, he hits a line drive to Juan Soto. Juan Soto catches it, and then Juan Soto's reaction afterwards was he thought that Trey Turner was mad after he caught Trey's line drive. He thought he would be mad because uh, of certain circumstances from before.
Well, they were also teammates in DC too.
Yeah. So, what's your stud, Spanish?
My stud consisted of Deontay Murray and Paulo Banchero. Deontay Murray just basically put rookie Paulo Banchero on skate with a fake pass, and then dunking the ball after tossing it off the backboard. It was like a sick looking play. It's like a sick looking play, and just embarrassed the crap out of the rookie forward. This wasn't like a summer league game or anything like that. They're kind of doing like pickup basketball, kind of like outside of with like these certain you know how you have like the Drew League, the crossover. It was one of those type of ordeals. But I had an honorable mention: the Baltimore Ravens for a training camp drill that involved some fun working on fumbles as teammates would spray at each other with a hose. So not only were these players getting a little bit wet, as sometimes fumbles could be done in the rain, they were getting sprayed torrentially by some
Could
some
they
of the
also
players.
add the fact that they would need Butterfinger candy bars in there? Because sometimes, like, it feels like they have Butterfingers.
But wait, nobody's supposed to lay a finger on my Butterfinger.
Shh. Just let it happen. Just let it happen.
Somebody needs to lay off the popcorn. Oh. So what was your dud there, Ruckus?
On Honestly, I feel for this guy, but my dad is Kyle Pitts after being scared of all the ducks that were coming at him on the golf course when golfing with his dad. And to be honest, I had a moment like this when I was young too, because when I was at Walt Disney World, I had a pretzel at one point, and for some reason there were some ducks behind me, and I when I was little, I fed them a little bit of my pretzel, and they kept going for more, which was a bad move. Um, but this man was scared of the ducks because, like, come on, man, like, there's some ducks. You don't know if they're gonna bite you or nip at you, but the most they're gonna do is go wah 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 wah.
Ducks just don't play.
Yeah, like the ducks that I was feeding the pretzel to were just kind of like, yo, like where's more of that pretzel, boy? Like we want some of that Mickey Mouse pretzel action there. And I was just like, no, it's my pretzel. I gave you a little bit of it, but you can gladly go away.
Just be thankful they weren't seagulls.
Oh, those bastards can get yeeted. I don't care.
Mine?
Mine,
Mine?
mine.
Mine? Oh my. Finding Nemo just had to had to be done.
I mean, it is Disney after all.
Yeah. But my dud consisted of Rodolfo Castro for having his cell phone in his pocket during a baseball game and losing it from his back pocket as he slid into third. And he's looking like, where? He's like, I know I had that here. Where the heck is my phone? And they eventually found it just before he stood up. Really, any damage was done to the phone. But it's just like, the heck? Why in the world do you have your phone while you're playing a baseball game? Shouldn't that be in the
Seriously.
shouldn't that be in the clubhouse?
I feel like in most cases you would get fined for having your phone out, like especially if like it was a tweet or something like that.
Yeah, I know the NFL does that. I think the NBA has a policy on it. I know MLB may not have as much of one, but you just ruined if there wasn't one, you just ruined it for everybody.
Honestly, at that point they had the money to like get it replaced anyways, but still like that sucks for the player.
Yeah. All right, Ruckus, take us out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the Ruckus and The Menace podcast, episode 19, where we talked about the Field of Dreams and also this is the
Baseball
episode. This is
movies.
the episode where we talked about more baseball and movies and films and stuff regarding sports movies. Um, thank you once again for listening to this awesome podcast with my awesome co-host Menace, the Menace,
Yep.
and my Twitter handle is Ruckus Sports 97. But anyways,
And mine is Spanish the Menace.
there you go. And we'll see y'all later. And also, if you want to send me a Venmo, which you don't really have to, I'm just putting it out there. Uh, for birthday wishes. Honestly,
It doesn't matter what his Venmo is.
in all honesty, the comments for the birthday wishes are the best thing you can do. I do not ask anything else with that. Anyways, have a good night or day.
Have a good one, guys.